guys, Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com, bringing you my first impressions plus on-feet video of the brand new Umbro UX Accuro Pro. Now this is a brand new model from Umbro, more or less a successor to the Umbro UX1, for those that are familiar with that particular shoe, and they were nice enough to send me a press kit for this brand new model. So the box that I have right here is really cool, that's why I'm showing it to you guys, but it is not the box that you'll receive if you actually order a pair, so keep that in mind. If you order a pair for yourself, it's going to come in a regular Umbro shoe box. But nonetheless, the box that I have here, it's black in color. It says Deadly in red right there on the front. And then it has all these spikes sticking up over the top, which are surprisingly sharp, although they're made from plastic, so I wouldn't say that they're particularly dangerous. The box is kind of magnetized here on the front. You open up the flap, and on the inside, it's all red in color, and you can see it says Comfort on the underside of the lid. It's actually peeling a little bit here just because it was laying out in the hot sun. I guess it was pretty hot throughout the delivery as well, so it's not quite exactly how it's supposed to be, but pretty close. And on the inside, it's pretty straightforward. You just have two kind of separate slots for the shoes themselves, which I have right here. This is the brand new Umbro UX Accuro Pro. It has a retail price of about $200. You can't really get them anywhere in North America as of yet. I'm not sure if that will change. If it does, there will be links on the review page of my website. There'll be a little pop-up on screen and a link in the description, so you can go ahead and check that out. As soon as anything's available, I will have links posted on that page. And as far as what we're going to do in this video, basically what we normally do with a new shoe. We're going to take a closer look at the tech specs, going to talk performance, take a look at the weight of the shoe, as well as how they fit and feel on feet. Because this is a pretty interesting model from Umbro. I actually like how they feel in hand thus far. And like I said, we're going to go into more detail in this video. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around. And with that being said, let's get right into it. To start things off, let's talk tech specs with the UX Accuro Pro. Now this is a pretty interesting shoe. I know that I said earlier that it is technically taking over for the UX1, but it really isn't anything like that shoe at all. It's a completely new design from Umbro, and one that I think is actually pretty intriguing. Now, the upper is made from a thin microfiber synthetic material, and it's got some really good softness to it. Whenever smaller companies, Umbro, I guess not being the smallest company in the world, but smaller in terms of popularity, I guess is the best way to put it. When they do synthetic, it generally tends to worry me just because they don't always do the best synthetics, but Umbro's had a pretty good track record as of late. I think the Velocita synthetic is actually pretty good, and this feels very, very nice. I'm pretty impressed with it. It's soft, it's flexible, and it's kind of a similar concept to what you're going to find from the current Puma Evo Power line, or what the Evo Power line, I guess, has been in since it was first created. So you have a thin microfiber synthetic that isn't overly thin. It does have still somewhat of a padded sensation to it, and I really like the finish on the surface. It's like almost like a synthetic suede, if that makes any sense. It's like it's smooth, but it has a little bit of kind of grittiness to it, so there is a decent amount of texture, which is going to translate to grip on the ball. And then all these little spots here where you see this kind of crisscross pattern here, the grid pattern, I guess, that is actually a grippy texturing that's pretty significant. It's a lot grippier than you might expect. Again, Puma does something like this with their grip texturing, but this feels a lot more significant, and I think it's going to provide legitimate grip on the ball. So it is somewhat of a rubberized element, but one that is very, very low profile and adds no bulk to the upper. Now, speaking of adding bulk to the upper, you have this thin microfiber, but you also have these raised areas outlined in red. You can see it says touch control, and that is their touch control pads, which are actually made from Poron XRD foam inserts. So again, kind of a similar concept to what you see on the Evo Power line with AccuFoam inserts. You have inserts of Poron XRD foam, which are quite thin, thinner than what you're going to find on the Evo Power, but you have one big pad right here on the kind of medial side of the midfoot, one in the main striking zone that does have some kind of embossed texturing to it, so that's going to provide a little bit of grip when you make contact with the ball, given how kind of soft it is. You obviously have the little ribs here running down both sides of the forefoot. It's split down the middle, mainly for flexibility, and you can see they run this way as well, so when your foot does bend, there's no restrictiveness from the actual foam, as soft as it is, and you have it running down the outside of the actual forefoot as well. So you do have extra padding kind of built in, so it's going to be a thin upper with Poron foam, which is obviously going to provide more of a dampened effect while adding very minimal amounts of bulk to the shoe. The shoe itself like I said, feels thin on your feet, but when you make contact with the ball, there is a noticeable dampened effect, which is something that, again, a lot of companies seem to be going after. You have it with the Evo Powers. I would describe the new Magista Umbro 2 as having a really dampened effect, and the new Magista line in general with the texturing that they've added. And again, this is very different from what Nike's doing with the Magistas, but the idea of implementing a Poron XRD foam on the upper is a really interesting thing. It's also going to add to the overall protective aspect of the shoe, although if you get stepped on in pretty much any shoe, it's going to hurt. But really interesting concept, and the upper just feels very good. Now the upper does have a burrito style kind of wrap over top of your foot's tongue, as you can see. So it starts from the medial side and then wraps over top, and you can see kind of cuts off right about at this point here on the inside of the shoe. You have a kind of standard single lace hole setup on the lateral side of the opening, and then on the medial side you have a dual lace hole setup. That's kind of interesting in that the liner covers up the underside of the actual laces. So if you look at all of the Nike shoes, for example, that have this dual lace hole system, you actually feel this little bit of lace on the inside of the shoe because nothing's between that and your foot. This shoe, you actually have to string it between the little gaps in the upper, in between the liner and the actual upper itself. So none of these laces are exposed against your foot, which I thought was kind of interesting. It just makes lacing them up a little bit more difficult, or relacing them a little bit more difficult, but isn't really going to have any impact on performance in my opinion. Around the top here, you also have a nice amount of padding. So what's often the case with a lot of these burrito style tongues is they tend to be a little bit uncomfortable and chafe right here, but you have so much nice padding that I don't think that's going to be an issue here whatsoever. Obviously it is a standard low cut shoe, very soft and flexible here at the back. You have a synthetic suede liner back here, which just feels really nice. Tons of padding, so comfort is not an issue, and the material itself seems to grip your sock quite nicely as well. The insole, fully removable. I'll give you guys a quick look at that. It's got a mesh liner on top, and it's made from a single layer of this white foam that has some decent thickness to it, and it's also really interesting in that it's super I guess squishy, for lack of a better word. It's not the standard foam that has firmness to it. This just feels really kind of spongy, I guess. It's really nice. When you step in the shoe, it's immediately noticeable that this is a really kind of lightly cushioned insole, if that makes any sense. And I just like how it feels in general. Very good step-in comfort because of the insole itself. And then moving on to the sole plate, you have their Pro Stance sole plate, which is entirely made from a Pebax material. Nice and lightweight. This shoe has a much lighter feel than I think you might expect based on how it looks. It does have a one-piece heel counter along with that, which very reminiscent of the the Sprint frames from Adidas at the moment, but again, heel counters generally tend to look like heel counters, if I'm completely honest with you guys. And then the sole plate, it's pretty straightforward, almost completely smooth, a little bit of ribbing here running through the midfoot to stiffen it up, but nice and flexible in the forefoot, and the upper is nice and flexible as well, so you get that nice natural sensation pretty much out of the box. And then with the stud pattern, Umbro labels their kind of firm ground stud patterns as hard ground. And in comparison to most firm ground stud patterns, as you can see with this one, this being a hard ground stud pattern, technically the studs are a little bit shorter than average, so it is, I guess, more of a true hard ground stud pattern as opposed to a firm ground one made for use on natural grass that is a little bit harder. And the stud pattern itself is a pretty straightforward kind of classic layout. Again, very similar to what you're going to currently see from Adidas as far as the positioning of the studs. The studs themselves are shorter though, and do have a fairly kind of standard conical shape to them, pretty wide base as well. So they're not going to dig in and provide the most aggressive traction in the world, but it is going to get the job done. You have these little kind of wing spots on certain studs, mainly this one right here, this one at the tip of the toe, and then this one at the very back of the heel, kind of giving it that bladed hybrid feel. Again, I think this is going to have very minimal impact on actual traction. Again, not the most aggressive thing in the world, but I think it will get the job done, especially if you are on harder ground, because honestly, you don't need super long studs or particularly aggressive blades to have good traction on hard ground. This is going to perform well. I think also distribute pressure across the bottom pretty well and just be comfortable to play in general. So that's pretty much it as far as what you have on offer here with the UX Accuro Pro from Umbro. It's a really interesting combination of features and a shoe that feels a lot higher quality than I was honestly expecting, especially being that it is a full synthetic. Umbro tends to do leather pretty well, but this is, like I said, a really interesting shoe that I'm excited to get more time into. As far as weight is concerned, like I mentioned earlier, these are lighter than you might expect them to be based on how they look. Exactly how light that is, that's what we're about to find out by weighing them in real time using this scale. So keep in mind that this is a brand new pair in a size 9 US, We're going to throw them on the scale, and you can see that they weigh in at 6.8 ounces, the equivalent of 192 grams, which is almost on par with something like a Mercurial Superfly 5, which obviously a lightweight shoe. You're getting something similar from the UX Accuro Pro. And in general, if you like what this shoe has on offer in terms of the features with the upper, as well as the sole plate and stud pattern, just know as well that it's going to offer a nice lightweight feel on your feet too. As far as the looks and general styling of the shoe go, they're not the most amazing looking shoes, if I'm completely honest. This is purely based on personal opinion, of course. You have the double diamond Umbro logo here in like a metallic silver on the lateral side of the midfoot. And on the medial side, you don't have any Umbro branding. You just have the UX Accuro logo on the heel in kind of a gloss black. The majority of the upper is matte black. And then you have what's called Grenadine as an accent color, which is kind of like an orangish red. It obviously outlines all of the touch control zones. You have the liner and insole in that Grenadine red color. And then the sole plate, matte black, with matte black studs, and then some of the studs are translucent and that kind of orangish red there on the inside. So a pretty straightforward design. Obviously they were going for some kind of a modern look with this kind of grid pattern that you have flowing throughout the entire upper. Again, I don't think they look bad. I don't think they're the most incredible looking shoe either, but let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Do you like how these look? Why or why not? And with that being said, let's move on to the on feet portion of the video so we can get a better idea as to how these shoes fit and of course what the sizing is like. All right, so here's a look at the UX Accuro Pros on feet. On my left foot I have the stock black laces that come with the shoes, and on my right foot I have a pair of black reflective SR4U replacement laces. If you're interested in a pair of replacement laces for yourself, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. You'll find a little pop-up on screen as well as a link in the description that'll take you directly there. So if you're interested in a pair, go ahead and check it out. Now in terms of how these things fit and feel on feet, they are very, very comfortable out of the box. I'm actually really surprised at how comfortable they actually are. From the get-go, the material just feels super soft on your foot, both because the microfiber itself is very, very soft, and also you have the pour-on foam padding throughout the entire upper, which also adds a nice level of kind of plushness to the actual material. It almost has the sensation of leather, but kind of with a twist, if that makes any sense. It's very comfortable, the shoe is super flexible, and the burrito style tongue, something I was a little bit skeptical of. This can generally, like I said, feel a little bit discomfort or uncomfortable, especially right here, but they just fit and feel really, really good. There's nothing really to complain about. The shape and the cut of the upper is a little bit odd, especially because of this burrito style tongue, but that's not uncommon for this style of shoe when they do a cut like that. So for the most part, when you pull the laces tight, they fit really well. They're super comfortable. There's not a lot of stiffness to the shoe at all. The lockdown in the heel is very, very good. And overall, I don't see that there's too much to break in with this particular shoe. They feel good to go right out of the box, which is definitely a positive thing. As far as width is concerned, it has a tighter, snug fit overall. It's not super wide, so if you have really wide feet, probably not the best option for you. And as far as stretching is concerned, I don't anticipate these stretching all that much just because of the actual pour-on foam, which isn't really going to give all that much. So for the most part, the way they fit out of the box is the way they're going to fit for their entire lifespan. But I would say that even though they do have a snug fit, they'll be suitable for most foot types. As far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing my usual size 9 US here, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair of these for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. All right, guys, that is it for my review of the Umbro UX Accuro Pro. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, availability at the moment is somewhat scarce, but as soon as they are readily available, you'll find buy it now links on the review page of my website, which will be the first link down below in the description, or you can go ahead and click the I in the corner of the screen. Other than that, if you have any questions at all regarding this particular shoe, leave them down below in the comments, and I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.